Nian, the female lead, is running away from her marriage. She tells her parents, "I don't want to marry some old man." Nian's parents tell her, "Whether you like it or not, you have to get married." Nian manages to escape, running until she falls on the road. Just then, several cars stop, and Mr. Lee, the male lead, steps out. Nian recognizes him immediately because she had once gone on a blind date with him. At that time, she had rejected him, saying, "There's a huge age difference between us, and I won't have a baby with you." After saying that, she had apologized and run away. But now, to avoid marriage, Nian tells Mr. Lee, "I'm ready to give you a baby, just save me." Then she faints, and Mr. Lee takes her with him, leaving Nian's parents furious, saying, "How did she run away? We were supposed to get money from the old man she was going to marry, and now she's gone. How will we get the money?" On the other hand, Lee brings Nian to his house, covering her with a blanket. When Nian wakes up, she sees Mr. Lee and thinks, "Am I dreaming? Did Mr. Lee really save me?" Then, seeing her clothes, she's shocked. Mr. Lee reassures her, "Don't worry, the maid changed your clothes last night." He asks her, "Do you remember what you promised me last night?" Nian responds, "Yes, you said on the blind date that you wanted a baby, so I'll give you one." Lee then applies medicine to Nian's injured hand, and she's shocked, thinking, "Is this really the same man I heard rumors about? They said he was a devil, but here he is, being so kind and applying medicine to me." After finishing, Lee tells her, "Now you rest. Tomorrow we'll go get our marriage certificate." Nian is stunned. The next day, they go to court, get the marriage certificate, and walk out. Nian thinks, "I really got married, and to the richest man in the city, Mr. Lee, the one I feared the most." Then, Lee takes her hand and brings her home, where the maids welcome them, congratulating them with, "Happy wedding." Lee assigns his maid aunt the responsibility of taking good care of Nian. Later, a doctor arrives and reveals Nian's health report, saying, "She's not healthy. She's not getting proper nutrition." This makes Lee furious. He asks, "Did they not even feed you properly?" Nian explains, "Actually, I'm not the real daughter of the Wen family, and getting food at all was a big deal for me." Lee tells the doctor, "Prepare a good nutrition plan for Nian." Later, Lee's grandpa calls, scolding him, "Last time, I set you up on a blind date with such a good girl, Nian, but you got rejected on the first meeting. So go on the next blind date I arranged, and don't get rejected this time." Lee gives his grandpa the good news. "Grandpa, I married Nian." His grandpa is overjoyed, telling him, "You better not bully Nian anymore. Take good care of her, understand? Or else I won't let you off." Lee responds, "Grandpa, don't worry about that." Then he orders his assistant, "Teach the Wen family a lesson." That night, Nian is nervous. When Lee enters the room, he tells her, "I'm going to take a shower." After his shower, when he comes out, Nian gets even more nervous and thinks, "Why am I so nervous? We're a legal couple now." Lee approaches Nian and starts kissing her, but then stops and says, "You're not healthy yet, so just sleep." Nian feels relieved and falls asleep. The next day, Nian arrives at her dance class. By now, all her colleagues know she's not the real daughter of the Wen family. One girl says to her, "Didn't you marry some old man? What are you doing here?" Nian slaps her, saying, "Don't ever talk nonsense about me again." Just then, the dance academy manager comes in and announces, "The lead dancer has been changed to Wen family's real daughter." That girl enters, greeting everyone with a "hello." Nian is shocked and asks the manager, "Wasn't I supposed to be the lead dancer for the next performance?" The manager responds, "But now you're not. Xia will be the lead because she's the real Wen family daughter, and her dad is one of our group's investors." Everyone sides with Xia and starts insulting Nian, calling her a fake daughter. Nian tells them, "I earned my lead dancer position with my own hard work, not because of the Wen family." Angrily, she storms out. Later, Xia approaches Nian and says, "Sister, you're so amazing running away from your wedding. Aren't you afraid that I'll tell mom and dad that you came here?" Nian replies, "Go ahead and tell them if you want. I'm not scared of them. They can't do anything to me." Xia smirks. "Oh, so you mean someone's backing you up? I don't believe that." Nian ignores her and walks away, with Xia following her. Outside, Lee is waiting to pick Nian up. Nian gets into his car, and they drive away, leaving Xia thinking, how did she end up with some rich guy after leaving the Wen family? She calls her dad and tells him everything about Nian. Meanwhile, Nian is happy, but suddenly the driver hits the brakes and Nian falls onto Lee, and they end up very close, both blushing. After reaching home, Nian thinks, "Lee's been so good to me, I should give him something in return." She looks at some couple photos and tells herself, "I can do this." That night, while Lee is working in his study, Nian comes in to seduce him, hugging him. Lee starts kissing her, but Nian, feeling nervous, stops him midway. The next day, Nian tries to leave the house early to avoid Lee, embarrassed by what happened the night before. When she arrives outside her class, some people hit her on the head, knocking her unconscious, and kidnap her. Nian soon realizes that the kidnappers are none other than her fake parents. They tie her up with ropes and say, "Now you can't run away from us." Nian tells them, "What you're doing is illegal." They bring in the old man she was supposed to marry. The old man starts harassing Nian, and she warns him, "Don't come near me. I'm married and my husband is Mr. Lee, the richest man in this city." But no one believes her. The old man tries to tear her clothes, but Lee arrives just in time, saving Nian from them. Lee's guards beat up the old man and Nian's fake parents, while Lee covers Nian's eyes so she won't get scared. Her fake parents are shocked, realizing that Mr. Lee really is Nian's husband. They beg for mercy, saying, "We raised you for 20 years, so how can you do this to us?" Nian yells at them through tears, "You were going to sell me. I'm not even your real daughter, so we have no relationship. I never want to see you again." Then she leaves with Lee. Nian's parents are furious. "We didn't even get any benefit from her yet, but now she's with Mr. Lee, so we have to get money from him somehow." Back at home, Lee applies medicine to Nian's hand and says, "Your family is really terrible." Nian starts crying again, so Lee tells her, "I already taught them a lesson." Nian pleads, "Don't leave me," pulling him close. Lee falls on her. Nian says, "It's been so long since someone treated me this well, so please don't leave me." Lee reassures her, "Don't worry, I'm not going anywhere." Nian smiles, saying, "If you hadn't come in time today, something would have happened to me." Lee teases her, "You should reward me then." Nian kisses him. Afterward, Lee tells her, "You were really scared today, so you should rest well. Now, go to sleep." The next day, Nian is heading to her dance class when her ex-fiancé Jiang meets her and asks, "Why didn't you answer any of my calls?" Nian responds, "Our engagement is over. Stay away from me, and besides, weren't you the one who said I'm a fake daughter and wanted to break off the engagement?" He replies, "But you still like me, right? Just let go of your anger and agree." Nian slaps him and says, "I'm married now, so don't ever bother me again." She walks away, leaving Jiang in disbelief, thinking, "She's lying to me on purpose, pretending to be married just to get my attention. I know it." When Nian arrives at the studio, her teammates shout, "What are you doing here? You've been fired, so you have no right to be here." And they ruin her dress. Just then, the manager arrives and announces, "I'm officially informing you that you've been fired from the studio." Nian asks, "But how can you fire me without any reason?" The manager replies, "Because now Ji will be the main dancer of our group. She's the real daughter of the Wen family and you're the fake one. There's no place for you here." Nian leaves. Later, while Nian is practicing dance alone, Lee calls her and says, "I'm coming to pick you up." Nian quickly refuses, "No need for you to come," and abruptly hangs up, thinking, "I have to win the championship somehow." Lee begins to worry about Nian and asks his assistant to look into her situation. The assistant tells Lee, Nian's ex-fiancé Jiang went to meet her at the company today. Misunderstanding the situation, Lee thinks, does she still like her ex-fiancé? When Lee gets home, he finds Nian asleep and starts applying medicine to her injured foot. She wakes up and happily asks, "Why are you so good to me?" He replies, "One day, you'll know." Meanwhile, Wen's fake mom and dad are stressed because their company is struggling financially, and if they don't get money soon, they'll have to sell the company, and shareholders are pressuring them. Jia overhears and screams, "Is our family going bankrupt? Am I going to live a miserable life now? That Nian got to live a rich life with you for 20 years, and now I have to live in poverty?" Her mom reassures her, "Don't worry, even though Nian is married to Mr. Lee, she's still under our control. We'll take advantage of that." They start plotting. The next morning, Nian receives a message from her fake mom saying, "I know you're still angry with me, but you want to know about your real parents, don't you? Come home, I want to talk to you." After reading the message, Nian goes to their house, and they try to convince her, "Look, you married Mr. Lee without even taking a bride price." Nian says, "So you lied to me, saying you would tell me about my parents when you really just wanted me to come here to talk about the bride price?" They respond, "We raised you for 20 years, so we deserve to at least get your bride price." "That would be fair." Nian asks, "How much money do you want?" Her mom replies, "Just 100 million. Nian responds, "How can you ask for such a large amount of money?" Her fake mom says, if you don't give us this money, we'll tell everyone that Mr. Lee married our daughter without even giving us a bride price. Imagine what people will say about that. On the other hand, when Lee asks the maid, where's Neon? The maid informs him, she left without having breakfast. Lee becomes worried and is thinking about Neon at the office when his assistant arrives. He asks the assistant, I heard you have a girlfriend? The assistant replies, yes, boss. I've been dating her for 3 years. Lee asks, does your girlfriend ever keep things from you? The assistant advises, boss, in a relationship, both the boyfriend and girlfriend should share everything with each other so that there are no misunderstandings. Later, when Neon comes home in the evening, the lights suddenly go out, and she sees that Lee has prepared a candlelight dinner surprise for her, which she really likes. However, seeing Neon so upset, Lee asks, are you hiding something from me? Neon doesn't tell him and says, I'm fine, and then starts drinking, thinking, I shouldn't bother him by telling him about my problems. Lee tries to stop her, don't drink so much, but Neon, already drunk, says, no, I'll drink more, and then falls on him saying, you're really good looking, by the way. Lee starts to kiss her, but she falls asleep. He lays her on the bed, thinking, she always falls asleep at the most important time. In her sleep, Neon starts mumbling, I won't give you anything, and Lee wonders, what is she trying to say? The next day, as Neon is about to leave the house, her fake parents show up and ask, what about the bride price? She replies, I'm not going to give it to you. You don't care about the bride price, you just want to sell me for a good price. They say, we've raised you for so many years and spent so much money on you, so we deserve something in return. Do you want Mr. Lee's reputation to be ruined? Neon responds, fine, I'll pay you all the money you spent on me, but I won't give you a single penny of the bride price. Her fake mom taunts her, how will you pay us? You've even been kicked out of your dance group, so where will you get the money from now? Neon's maid witnesses this and quickly calls Lee. Neon tells her fake parents, I'll find a way to return all your money, but I won't give you the bride price. Her fake dad raises his hand to hit her, but Lee arrives just in time and says, how dare you try to hit my wife? Neon's parents pretend, son-in-law, we were just joking with our daughter. Lee replies, it seems I didn't punish you enough last time, so you've come to bother Neon again. They argue, she's the daughter of the Wen family and you married her, so we deserve the bride price, don't we? Lee asks, how much money do you want? They respond, at least 100 million. Lee retorts, do you think I'm a fool? You've already hurt Neon so much, and now you want to use her to get money. Neon's mom threatens, if we tell everyone about this, your reputation will be ruined. Lee says, I don't care about my reputation. Neon adds, Mr. Lee saved my life, so I don't owe you any bride price. Her parents threaten, if we don't get the money, we won't give you your household registration. Lee, now angry, says, I hate people who make threats, and starts calling his guards. Neon's parents, terrified, run away. Later, Lee takes Neon home and asks, why didn't you tell me about this? Neon responds, I just didn't want to bother you. Lee says, look, I'm with you now, so in the future, you don't need to solve these problems alone. You can tell me. Neon starts crying, saying, I'm glad you're with me. The next day, Neon goes to participate in her dance competition, but Jiang shows up and starts humiliating her in front of everyone, saying, you can't just leave me like this. Neon tries to explain, stay away from me, but he refuses to listen. At that moment, Lee arrives and punches Jiang, knocking him down. After teaching Jiang a lesson, Lee takes Neon away, leaving Jiang wondering, who was that guy? The crowd starts murmuring. She's Mr. Lee's wife, and they look like the perfect match. This guy must have been lying about her. Jiang is furious. Meanwhile, Neon explains to Lee, I really don't have any relationship with him anymore. Our engagement was arranged by our families, and I wasn't even ready for it, so please don't be angry. He came to bother me on his own. Lee responds, if I hadn't assigned a guard to watch over you, I wouldn't have arrived in time to save you. If I hadn't come, how were you going to get out of this situation? And you still won't tell me anything about yourself. Neon apologizes. Sorry, I won't hide anything from you again. Please don't be angry anymore. By the way, how did you know I was participating in the competition? You're really amazing. The announcement starts, anyone participating in the competition, please hurry inside or latecomers will not be allowed. Neon says, I'm running late, so I have to go. When Neon goes to change her dress, Xia sees her and ruins her dress. When Neon reaches the stage, she realizes, my dress is torn. So she takes off her jacket and continues her dance. Her dance is so impressive that everyone loves it. Xia is shocked to see this. When it's Xia's turn, she can't dance properly, and everyone laughs at her. Nian wins the competition and receives the award. She shows the award to Li, but he gets angry and says, "Why did you hide from me that you were kicked out of the dance group? What else are you hiding from me?" Nian kisses him to calm him down, and Li forgets his anger, saying, "Do you want to rejoin the dance group? I can help you." Nian replies, "No, I don't want to join again. Anyway, I've won the championship, so I don't need it." Li says, "Okay, as you wish. I'll support your decision." When Nian reaches home, Li's grandpa is there to meet her, and he gifts her a bracelet saying, "This is our family heirloom, and now it's yours." Grandpa praises Nian, "You're a great granddaughter. Don't worry about anything. The Wen family is blind for kicking you out, but this home is now your home." They sit down for dinner, and Grandpa feels bad, saying, "It's terrible that the Wen family didn't even feed you properly." Then he says, "Wait, I'll make a call and make them disappear." Li says, "Grandpa, I've already bankrupted them." Grandpa, pleased, says, "You did the right thing." Grandpa then asks Li, "What have you given Nian?" Li says, "Grandpa, all my property will belong to Nian." Nian, shocked, thinks, "Li is really so good, I should give him a baby." Later, Grandpa, seeing Nian's things in the guest room, realizes that Nian and Li sleep in separate rooms. Furious, Grandpa yells at Li, "I want a great-grandchild soon, and you can't do that while sleeping apart." To appease Grandpa, Li moves into Nian's room and tells her, "Grandpa is watching us, so we need to sleep in the same room for show." Nian agrees, and Grandpa is delighted. Meanwhile, Xia is at a bar, drinking and fuming. That Nian stole my championship and now she's living such a good life? How is she so lucky? She then speculates, it must be Mr. Li helping her. That's why she even won the competition. A man, who is actually Li's enemy, overhears her and gives her a lot of money, saying, "Let's make a deal and take revenge on Nian and Li together." The next morning, Nian and Li join Grandpa for breakfast, and Grandpa asks, "So Nian, what are your future plans?" He remembers, "Oh, right, you work for an international dance company, don't you?" Nian says, "Grandpa, I've been fired, but I'm still going to continue dancing because I love it." Nian adds, "I just need to go back home and get my account book and then I'll be fully independent." Li says, "I'll come with you or they might bully you." Just then, Li's assistant informs him, "You have to attend the shining ceremony today." Li replies, "Cancel all my appointments today, I'm going with Nian." Nian says, "No need for that. Don't stop your work because of me. I'll go with the assistant." Nian goes to her old home with the assistant to get the account book. But Nian's mom says, "If you want the account book, you have to kneel first." Nian responds, "It seems you've forgotten what will happen if you try to mess with me." Scared, her mom says, "But no one other than you is allowed in the house, not even the assistant." The assistant tries to stop Nian. "The boss ordered me not to leave you alone at any time." Nian assures him, "Don't worry, I'll grab the book and come right out." When Nian goes inside, her mom says, "Come with me, I'll give it to you." But it's all a trick, and they drug her and sell her to a man who is Li's enemy. He goes to her and says, "So this is Mr. Li's wife." He takes a picture of her and sends it to Li with the message, "Your wife is with me now." As soon as Li finds out, he rushes to save Nian, beats up that man, and goes to Nian. Under the influence of the drugs, Nian starts kissing Li, and they start romancing. The next morning, when Nian wakes up and sees Li beside her, she recalls that her mom and dad drugged her and that Li saved her. Later, at the company, Li's assistant tells him, "The man from last night escaped. We couldn't catch him, and we don't know who he is, but he seems to know you very well." Li orders, "Find out everything about him and teach the Wen family a lesson for what they did to Nian." Li's assistant and guards go to Nian's fake mom and dad's house and beat them up. The next day, Nian opens her new studio and hires her own employees. However, one of Nian's old colleagues shows up with Jiang, and they humiliate her in front of everyone, saying, "This is Nian's ex-boyfriend. She broke up with him because she hooked a rich old man. That's why she has so much money and how she won the championship. She has no real talent." Hearing this, everyone believes them. Nian slaps Jiang and says, "It seems you've forgotten the beating I gave you last time. I just want to know who you married." At that moment, Li arrives and introduces himself. "How can you spread rumors that I'm a 50-year-old man?" Seeing Li, Nian happily rushes to him. Li says, "Sorry, I was late to your opening ceremony because of work." Shocked, everyone realizes that this is Mr. Li, the richest man in the city. Li signals, and Zhang and the colleague are thrown out. After the opening ceremony, Li takes Nian out to dinner, and they spend a great time together before returning home. Nian starts kissing Li and says, "I'm ready to give you a baby now." Li thinks to himself, "She doesn't like me. She just wants to fulfill her promise." He tells her, "I didn't marry you just because I want a baby." Nian, confused, asks, "Then what do you want?" He replies, "You'll never understand what I want," and leaves. The next day, Nian is dancing in her studio when a rich lady arrives and watches her dance, admiring her skills. She notices someone recording a video of Nian and stops him. Nian thanks the lady for helping her. Later, Xia shows up at Nian's studio, but the employee tells her to leave. Nian arrives and says, "I have no relationship with your family anymore, so leave." Xia says, "Don't act all innocent. You sent your goons to beat up my parents, and now they're still in the hospital. But that's not why I'm here. I'm here to tell you that my mom gave me something related to your parents. If you want it, you'll have to compete with me in a dance competition. If I win, you'll have to kneel and apologize to me." Nian replies, "Even after losing to me so many times, you still want to challenge me? Fine, but if I win, you'll have to give me whatever it is related to my parents." Xia agrees, deal, and leaves. Nian wonders, does she really have something related to my parents? When Nian gets home, the maid says, "Madam, you're working overtime again. If master finds out, he'll be upset." Nian asks, "Where is Mr. Lee?" The maid replies, "He's gone on a business trip." Nian feels upset, thinking, "He left on a business trip without telling me. He must really be busy this time." Later, the dance competition takes place, and once again, Nian wins, leaving Xia furious. Nian tells her, "As soon as the competition ends, you're running away from here. Did you forget you lost the bet? Now, give me the thing you were talking about." Xia replies, "I'm not giving it to you. Anyway, our bet was only verbal, and there's no evidence." Hearing this, Nian gets angry, slaps her, and says, "Until you give me that thing, I'll keep slapping you." Xia is then forced to give her the jade pendant. Later, a judge, Miss Xu, who loved Nian's dance, calls Nian for a chat. Miss Xu offers her an opportunity to compete abroad to improve her future, but Nian refuses, saying, "Actually, I love my husband very much, and I want to give him a baby, which is very important to me right now." After saying goodbye to Miss Xu, Nian steps out and sees Lee bringing her flowers. She hugs him quickly, saying, "I missed you so much." He replies, "Sorry, I missed your dance." They go home together, and Nian stands outside Lee's room thinking, what if he throws me out again today? Lee sees her, brings her into the room, and Nian says, "I wasn't going to come into your room. I was just passing by." Lee responds, "Who walks around carrying pillows?" Nian says, "It's all your fault. Last time, you pushed me away." Lee says, "Maybe you've misunderstood our marriage. Do you think I married you just for a baby?" Nian replies, "Actually, I like you a lot because you've protected me so much and given me such a good new life." Lee is thrilled to hear that Nian likes him, and they start kissing, spending the night together. The next morning when Nian wakes up, the maid tells her that Lee has already rushed off to the office as he's a workaholic and always busy. The maid suggests, "If you take him breakfast to the company, he'll be very happy." Nian likes the idea and calls Lee, telling him, "I'll be outside your company soon to surprise you." Lee then calls his assistant, saying, "I'm about to leave for a foreign meeting, so send someone to pick up my wife outside the company." The assistant passes the task to the manager. A little later, Nian arrives outside Lee's company on her scooter, and as she moves forward, a car hits her, making her fall, ruining her tiffin. The woman in the car is her old classmate, Shen, who immediately insults Nian, saying, "I heard that after college, even your family kicked you out. It looks like you've become so poor that you're now a delivery girl." Just then, the manager arrives and asks, "Which one of you is the president's wife?" Before Nian can respond, Shen claims, "I'm the president's wife." The manager says, "Mr. Lee personally sent me to pick you up." Nian explains, "You're mistaken. Mr. Lee sent you to pick me up." Shen shouts at her, "How shameless can you be, pretending to be the president's wife?" The manager sides with Shen and orders the security guards, "Don't let this girl inside." The manager then takes Shen into the company while the security guards start harassing Nian. When the manager brings Shen into Lee's office, Lee shouts, "Who are you calling my wife?" "She's not my wife." The manager turns to Shen, asking, "Aren't you the boss's wife?" Shen replies, "I thought you were just giving me a compliment." The manager remembers Nian and says, "Boss, I made a mistake. There was another girl outside who looked like a delivery girl. She must have been your wife." Lee becomes furious and yells, "If anything happens to my wife, I won't spare you." He rushes out to find Nian and finally rescues her from the guards. He fires both the guards and the manager. Lee tells Shen, "I'm terminating all contracts with your company, and from now on your career is over." Lee then picks up Nian and carries her into the company. Shen is furious, thinking, how can Nian be so lucky to get Mr. Lee, the richest man in the city? Lee brings Nian to his office and tells her, "Don't worry, what happened today will never happen again." Nian's hand is injured, so Lee calls his doctor. After treating Nian and checking her blood, the doctor informs them Nian is pregnant. Both are extremely surprised. Later, when they return home, Grandpa is thrilled to learn that he's going to be a great-grandfather. He gives Nian some contracts and says, "I've set aside 10% of the shares in the baby's name." Nian refuses to take it, but Lee convinces her, saying, "Grandpa is giving this to the baby, so accept it." Nian agrees, and Grandpa decides, "You two should get married as soon as possible." The next day, Lee drops Nian off at her studio, and the employees, seeing them together, comment on what a great couple they are and ask, "How did you two meet and how did you get married?" Lee tells them, "We met when we were kids, so our love story is pretty old." Hearing this, the employees are even happier, thinking they are childhood sweethearts. Nian asks Lee, "How do we know each other from before?" Lee explains, "When I was young, I was once admitted to the hospital, and that's where I first met you when you were just a 6-year-old girl. You comforted me, telling me I would get better soon." As Lee and Nian are about to kiss, Miss Shu arrives with her team, and seeing them, she says, "Looks like I came at the wrong time." Nian gives Miss Shu an invitation to their wedding party, saying, "In 3 days, I'm going to make my relationship with my husband public." Miss Shu replies, "Okay, I'll definitely come," and then thinks, if my daughter were alive today, she'd be as grown up as Nian. Then the wedding day arrives, and Nian's mom and dad come insulting her, but Lee teaches them a lesson and throws them out of the party. Miss Shu publicly adopts Nian as her goddaughter and tells her, "My daughter isn't alive, so will you be my daughter?" Nian agrees, and they hug each other. Afterward, Lee and Nian return home and spend some quality time together. The next day, while Nian is traveling by car, another car starts following them. Her driver informs her, "The brakes have failed." Just as the car is about to hit Nian's, another car intervenes, saving her from the crash. Nian quickly gets out of the car and realizes that Xia was trying to kill her but has now gotten injured herself. Nian also notices that the person who saved her is Miss Shu, who is also badly injured. Nian feels terrible, thinking, "Because of me, Miss Shu's life is in danger." She rushes Miss Shu to the hospital and, crying, tells Lee, "Miss Shu risked her life to save mine. I just want her to be okay." Just then, Miss Shu's father arrives, and when he learns that his daughter had an accident while saving Nian, he slaps Nian, yelling, "It's because of you that my daughter is in this condition." At that moment, a doctor comes out and says, "The patient urgently needs blood." Nian says, "I'm ready to donate my blood." Lee says, "Your health isn't good. You shouldn't donate blood." But Nian insists and donates her blood to Miss Shu. However, Miss Shu still hasn't regained consciousness, and her father keeps blaming Nian. Then, Nian's jade pendant falls to the ground, and upon seeing it, Miss Shu's father realizes, "This is actually my granddaughter." At the same time, a nurse informs them, "From the blood reports, we've concluded that there's a blood relationship between the patient and Nian." Everyone is shocked to learn that Miss Shu is Nian's mother. Lee says, "I had a suspicion that Miss Shu was your mother because of the many similarities between you two, so I asked the doctor to run the blood test." Afterward, Miss Shu regains consciousness. Miss Shu is overjoyed and cries with happiness upon learning that Nian is her daughter. Miss Shu's father apologizes to Nian, saying, "I treated you so badly before." Nian forgives him, knowing that he was only concerned for his daughter. Later, Nian's mother throws a huge party to announce, "I've found my lost daughter, and she'll be the sole heir to all my property." Nian and Lee's life continues to go well, and Nian is very happy with her mother. One day, while they are out shopping, Lee's enemy shows up and deliberately pushes Nian to kill the baby, wanting Lee to feel the pain of losing someone. But Lee's guards catch the man, and Lee rushes Nian to the hospital, where she immediately gives birth to a baby girl. They are overjoyed that both Nian and the baby are safe, and the drama ends with a happy ending.